In today's news, Recaptured local claims he was released by an officer and did not escape, says he fears for his life in prison.
The BVI Red Cross appeals to members of the public to become blood donors.
And 16 selected for the BVI National Football Training Camp in the United Kingdom.
In addition, the Trade Department finally makes provisions for remote payments, and Minister Rymer praises public-private response in recent Virgin Gorda fire. All this and so much more after word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Well, welcome everyone. It's Monday, January 24th, 2022. I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant, wishing each and every one of you a happy Monday. We're coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. Touching on a few major headlines, the BVI EC says they are still recovering from the 2017 hurricanes. That's Sir Leroy Abraham, and foreclosures are coming. 3rd District Representative, the Honorable Fraser, wants National Bank debt forgiven. The BVI Post is partnering with DHL to deliver express mail, and PwC wins a over 300K public service reclassification contract. In addition to that, the Labor Department is severely short-staffed. A report says they're in crisis. Also, 2nd District Representative says it is disrespectful he confronts top cop on the King Garden Bay Police Station situation.
And viewers, we start today's newscast on the subject of a recent police arrest, where recently recaptured local Kurt Rabsat has been remanded for 6 days and is claiming that he never escaped police custody. Instead, he alleges that a police officer released him. Rabsat made those claims during his first court appearance on Friday, January 21st, before Magistrate Jack Husbands, where the East End resident has been charged for burglary and escaping lawful custody. Well, according to the allegations which were presented by the prosecution, Rabsat, after being detained in a holding cell within the East End police station on December 18, 2021, escaped police custody. The report claims that the officer who was responsible for detaining Rabsat made chase following his escape and shouted for the accused to stop. However, Rabsat did not comply and eventually escaped police custody. Well, his second charge of burglary, as presented by the prosecution, occurred while the accused was on the run on January 16, 2022. It is alleged that Rabsat entered room 41 of Lambert Beach Resort with intent to steal. He was later recaptured and by local law enforcement officers on January 17, 2022. But the prosecution objected to bail on 2 main grounds. The first was that Rabsat was likely to reoffend if released on bail. The second was that due to the nature of his escape of lawful custody charge, it was argued that he may not show up at a future court appearance and could likely flee the territory. But the prosecution also informed the court that there will be 4 additional charges brought against Rabsat in the near future. But when given the opportunity to justify why he should receive bail, the East End resident brought forward many points to his argument. But the first was that he has not been in trouble with the law since being released from prison in 2018. He also argued that there was no substantial evidence against him, stating that the police are unsure whether he had any involvement with the alleged burglary crime. His second argument was allegations that he was ill-treated and beaten while in police custody, even though he did not resist arrest at any time. He pointed to his wrists to show evidence of bruising and swelling and to a scar on his forehead. Rabsat's third point, which was the most serious allegation, is that he feared for his life if he was remanded to prison since he has enemies presently inside Her Majesty's prison who want him dead. He said those enemies stem from his previous time in prison and that ever since his release they have been sending him death threats from prison. Well, to emphasize how dangerous these alleged enemies are, Rabsat claimed that they were involved in a recent killing in prison. Well, Magistrate Husband, after listening to the many allegations of Rabsat, said that he understood the concerns raised but could not grant bail at the time due to his charge of escaping lawful custody. The magistrate, however, assured Rabsat that he would see to it that he is placed in a safe environment in prison. Rabsat was remanded until Thursday, January 27th, where he will have the opportunity to obtain a lawyer to represent him in his legal case. Ron, obviously, this was somewhat of a shocking testimony from that of Mr. Rabsat during that online virtual hearing, which would have taken place on Friday. I mean, we all did hear the news of when he escaped, but in terms of his side of the story, basically alleging that he did not escape, that he was released yet. A little contradictory, but it is an ongoing matter, and he will have his fair day in court when that time comes.
Indeed, viewers, on a more positive note, in recognizing and admiring the public-private collaboration in outing a recent fire at Prentice Quarters along Cooper Mind Road, Virgin Gorda, on Tuesday, January 18th, 2022, the Honorable Rymer, Minister for Transportation and Works, said, and I quote, "One of the finest human attributes is that when things seem to be at their worst, that is when people are at their best." The minister thanked the brave, hard-working fire officers of the Virgin Islands Fire and Rescue Service and a strong, united Virgin Gorda community who, he said, collectively confronted, controlled, and conquered the fire through teamwork. Now, agencies present included fire officers from the BVI Airports Authority, the auxiliary fire officers, Visor personnel, business owners Mr. Dwight and Ricardo Flax of Virgin Gorda, the Public Works Department, other local heavy equipment owners, and many private residents of Virgin Gorda. The Honorable Rymer also said, "I thank every member of the public who contributed to their night's success. No matter your role, it was a triumphant demonstration of the best qualities of Virgin Islanders." As stated, investigations are still ongoing. However, Chief Fire Officer Mr. McLean is taking the opportunity to share fire safety prevention information and tips. Here are the fire chief's tips. Firstly, ensure nothing flammable is near a heat source. This is a quick way to start a fire. Unattended candles cause hundreds of fires each year, even with safe holders. They should not be left unattended. It only takes a minute, he said, for a pet, a child, the wind, or a person to knock a candle over onto a flammable material. If equipment like grills are improperly used or not maintained, they become fire hazards. Frayed or chewed electrical cords start many house fires. Exposed electrical wires will light your floors, and rugs on fire in no time. Prevent pets from chewing on electrical cords. This can create serious fire hazards. The kitchen is often the most fire-prone room, he said, in the house. Unattended pots frying on the stove, toasters, hot plates, dishes that are not microwave safe, and cookbooks near naked flames or heat are the common cause of fires. Again, these are the quite commendable remarks. We saw Fire Chief Mr. McLean issuing his commendations to his team and also to the residents, and now we see the Honorable Rymer, for whom fire and rescue falls under his portfolio, now coming to the forefront and issuing another set of commendations to the territories, Virgin Gorda community, the workers, and of course the business community of Mr. Dwight and Rosario Flax for their Ricardo Flax, that is, for their commendable work. A beautiful representation of community spirit, and like no other, BVI love.
Ultimately, and I totally agree with you, Ron. And ultimately, these recommendations that the Chief Fire Officer McLean would have basically put out there for the public are very important as well. I mean, because investigations continue to determine what would have caused that unfortunate fire on VG recently. Ultimately, we do know that a lot of fires happen from these same basically tips that he would have basically put out there for persons to adhere to, because most of the times we take a lot of things for granted.
True.
And ultimately, as he says, it takes a split second then for a tragedy to happen, as we see fires across the world basically daily.
Indeed.
Well, viewers, up next, the BVI Red Cross appeals to members of the public to become blood donors, and 16 selected for BVI National Football Training Camp in the United Kingdom. But these and more stories after a word from our sponsors.
Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works. Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us. The British Virgin Islands Red Cross is a non-profit, a volunteer-run humanitarian organization, and through its many programs provides assistance to persons within the BVI who are in need. The organization is part of a global voluntary network responding to conflicts, natural disasters, and individual emergencies, whether health or social. Now, viewers, with this in mind, the BVI Red Cross needs your help, and the organization recently launched an online blood donor campaign to attract new blood donors. Now, there are many challenges that arise as it pertains to blood donations. Firstly, there are 8 main blood types, and the rarest of those types are O negative, AB positive, and AB negative. Now, the blood type O negative is usually in short supply because this type is universal. It is a universal donor, which means persons with this type of blood can donate blood to anyone, but can only receive from another O type. Another challenge, of course, is that the BVI population is very small and the blood only has a shelf life of 30 days. Earlier today, viewers, I sat down with Director of the BVI Red Cross, Miss Stacy Lloyd, who put the need of the BVI Red Cross and the community as it pertains to blood donorship into perspective. Take a look.
Like you mentioned earlier, Ron, there have been an overwhelming request for blood donations. I think just about every week you will get a WhatsApp text asking to donate blood for a specific individual. And normally when we get those requests, we will go into our blood donor list. And this is a list of donors who have signed up to be blood donors. Our list have not been updated in about 2 years, and that's because of the pandemic. And so that's one of the reasons why we're launching this appeal, is because we need to update our list. So we have persons who perhaps have moved, who've died, whose numbers have changed. And so when we go into our list and we call these individuals, we're unable to get them. That's one. And two, what we're finding is because of COVID being an illness, persons may require blood. And so you will get more requests for needing to have blood. And third, we at times do have individuals who are signed up to be blood donors, but when you call them, they're not willing or they're unable to meet that level of commitment. So we're urging persons to become blood donors. And I also want to have an opportunity to explain to persons, when you do make this commitment, that you are saving a life. And so when we do call and ask you to donate for a specific individual, that you are committed to doing this, and what happens when you do this, you're saving a life.
Viewers, that was Director of the BVI Red Cross, Miss Stacy Lloyd, in an exclusive interview with our agency. As was mentioned in that interview, Kamal, a number of contributing factors, of course, which I mentioned to be the varying rare blood types, which are in shortage. In addition to that, the shelf life and the fact that the BVI is a very small community. But in addition to that, one of the things that Miss Lloyd spoke about is the fact that you do have persons who register, but when they're contacted, they are unavailable and not willing. One of the important factors, viewers, to take into consideration is simply the life you save could be your own. We have been getting an influx of messages throughout the past week and over the pandemic, particularly for blood donors. Just about every week, someone is in need of blood. When you put that holistically into perspective, it sincerely shows you that if you can, and if you're not in a position, of course, that's understandable, but if you are in a position to give, and if you do decide to put your name on a blood donor list, the updated one that the BVI Red Cross is trying to update, then when you're contacted, it is of paramount importance that you do make yourselves available. And we do understand, again, it's a social responsibility. Some persons are not eligible, but if you do, when you put it into perspective, it definitely could save a life and maybe your own.
And one of the things that she touched on during that interview, for those persons who will tune in later after this newscast, one of the things she touched on was a lot of misconceptions when it comes to donating blood. And one that, one recent one would have been that persons who would have contracted COVID recently are not eligible to donate blood. That is totally untrue, as she would have addressed. Ultimately, if you're vaccinated as well, That was another one that
Yes.
persons were circulating, stating that, they think that once they would have been vaccinated, that, they no longer are eligible. She obviously would have dispelled that rumor as well.
And share the time frame for which that you are able to give blood after a vaccine.
Exactly. So for viewers, so tune into that so you can be well informed. But obviously, it's ultimately untrue to think that once you would have been recently had your jab or even your booster shot,
Or were contracted with COVID.
or contracted with COVID, ultimately you still are eligible to donate blood after the fact. Well, viewers, moving on, where we see 16 local football players have been selected for a BVI National Football Training Camp in the United Kingdom, which commenced this week. Where there are goalkeepers Philip Jules and Will Butler, defenders Christian Xavier, Jerry Wiltshire, Vidal Hendrickson, Miguel Marshall, Aikja Williams, and Malika Steiners. Midfielders Carlos Steptus, Lucas Chilwell, Jamie Wilson, and Tisharn Gallimore, and forwards Josh Bertie, Tyler Forbes, Jake Forbes, and Kevin Fisher. Where the 16 players will be under the watchful eyes of national head coach Chris Kaiwomya at Bisham Abbey in England. Was speaking on the week-long initiative, President of the BVI Football Association, Mr. Andy Bickerton, said it will be greatly assist with the development of the participating players. Take a listen.
We have a camp coming up in the United Kingdom here in North London at the Bisham Abbey site, which is where the England team used to train. So we have a week there. I think it's from the 23rd to the 29th. So we're continuing to prepare under the new coach, Chris Kaiwomya. We have our first games in June, so we're getting together in January. We'll get together in the BVI in March, and then again in May, and then be playing in June. So we're really serious about our national team preparation. Josh Bertie, who we've just been talking about, will be involved in that camp in Bisham Abbey. So we continue to plan and progress, and looking forward to being able to play games at home in the BVI, so that our supporters can see the progress that our young players have been making.
Well, viewers, in addition to the week-long camp, the BVI national team will be playing a friendly game against Anguilla, also in the United Kingdom, on Thursday, January 27th. But the BVI Football Association also revealed several of the upcoming players in the BVI who were selected for the squad but were unavailable this time around to make this trip. Where this included players such as the likes of Sheldon Toney, Kalani and Denvin Jones, Justin Smith, Luca Reach, Liam Block, Alejandro Santos, Leo Forte, and Gerthin Jones. Ron, this is great news for the BVI, considering we were making some strides in 2021. Ultimately, what this helps to do is just help climatize, give the football players somewhat of an experience on the international scene in a different climate also too, in terms of that cold atmosphere, so that it helps to basically help them to adapt to certain situations when it comes to the international level. Because ultimately, as I was speaking to Mr. Bickerton, the plan is to get more international games going for the BVI football team, to continue them to on that developmental role. So ultimately, hopefully by 2024 and 2025, we should be competing at a much better level, a much higher level when it comes to international tournaments.
Kamal, what we see is the BVI Football Association really investing in a generation of greatness. I do believe that their level of commitment, sacrifice, dedication in making sure that the athletes are trained and exposed both locally and internationally is commendable. This is how you build capacity. This is how you build talent, and I think we can expect a lot more from the BVI Football Association and many of these athletes that we do see here. They're taking it to a next level, and I think it will only garner a greater return.
And what I should also add to, obviously, when we look at the BVI and we look at sports in the BVI, yes, compared to the other countries, international countries, we lack the resources that they tend to have. So ultimately, these types of opportunities are acts as somewhat of a gem, or somewhat of a golden ticket for a lot of individuals who otherwise wouldn't have had that experience. Yeah, but I should also add, as well, as he did mention to me, a lot of these persons that are on the present team right now, they are somewhat based in the UK in college and stuff. So what this does is just, it helps to help those players to play together, because ultimately they don't usually get that opportunity to play as a team, to build as a team, and therefore what this camp does is help to build chemistry, as well as obviously develop a lot of those players. Ultimately, those other persons that I mentioned lastly were unable to make it due to other reasons, but hopefully in the future, in future camps, those persons too can make the squad to help develop their skills as well.
Understandable, and we wish them continued success. Viewers, up next, the BVI Trade Department makes provisions for remote payments, and over in Guyana, we are seeing where the opposition has filed a no-confidence motion against the speaker to have him removed. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a brand new season of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. It doesn't always involve suits and, bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. This season, I'm taking you on an entirely different journey, from chefs to dancers, philanthropists, communications specialists, and much more. I'm heading outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Bojangara, Jackson Lake, not forgetting Anigata. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing the damn thing, and I'm so proud. Get ready to reason, reflect, and redirect. We are the movers and shakers of this generation, and we ain't afraid to show it. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, Season 3 by yours truly, Ron Grant, raising a generation of greatness.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Now on to more local news. The Department of Trade, Investment Promotion and Consumer Affairs has adapted to the current needs of the residents of the Virgin Islands and, of course, its business community. And they are now accepting remote payment from customers wishing to make payments for trade licenses. Now, in a Government Information Services release, Director of Trade, Mrs. Carrier Christopher, said, and I quote, "To reduce the immense foot traffic at the department and to better serve our customers, we are encouraging persons to make payments for trade licenses using any of our contactless options." Now, the general public is hereby notified of the following payment options for trade licenses. They are credit card or debit card payment. In order to do that, you must complete the credit card authorization form. Email the completed form to bvitrade@gov.vg. Again, that's bvitrade@gov.vg. Where email is not possible, please drop off the information in a sealed envelope in a drop box located on the second floor. A customer service representative will call when the process is completed. In addition, you can pay via check. Customers who choose to remit payments with a check should list all licenses to be paid, placed in a sealed envelope, and placed in the drop box again on the second floor. Cash payments, all cash payments must be remitted at the Department of Trade in person. The cashier hours are 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. from Monday through Friday. Now, viewers, additionally, residents, of course, of the sister islands will continue to be serviced as priority if payments are made in persons. Trade license late fees will be in effect from February 15th, 2022. Kamal, we see where another government agency, major office, is making provisions, which is commendable in these very difficult times.
Yes, and that issue of remote payment have been somewhat of an issue, especially when we go over to the Labor Department, or the Department of Labor and Workforce, or the Department of Workforce Development, as it's now called. We would have seen that the remote payments was a big issue with persons being able to ultimately apply for work permits online, but having to go in person to then pay, which obviously defeats the purpose of going online. Initially here now, what we see the Trade Department now, they would have taken initiative now to have the necessary mechanisms in place to allow to facilitate that online purchasing. But I think what we would love to see for a lot of persons, not only in trade but also in the labor department. We would like to see that transition soon, because ultimately after they would have gone online, they would have retracted that now to reverting back to in person,
unfortunately,
for
yes,
for renewals. But hopefully the government gets that under control.
Kamal, I think holistically, when we do look at the entire government services, I do think that the need to enhance and move all remote payments across all departments in the BVI is of paramount importance. I'm sure it's going to take a while to get there, but that, I think, should be the overall goal.
I mean, ultimately, it's time it should have been done.
Oh, absolutely.
By now, it's 2022. Well, hopefully this year the necessary legislations are passed and that becomes a reality for all residents. Well, viewers, moving on to the regional scene where we see Guyana's opposition, a Partnership for National Unity and Alliance for Change, has filed a motion of no confidence against Speaker of the National Assembly, Manzoor Nadir. Well, viewers, this was confirmed in several articles from news agencies within Guyana, which said the motion was filed amid concerns of possible sanctions being imposed on several opposition legislators, which stemmed from a December 29th incident in the parliament. Well, according to the articles, the incident erupted after opposition members attempted to block the debate and passage of the Natural Resource Fund legislation. Well, the motion alleges that Speaker Nadir, from the inception of his tenure, has demonstrated partiality and brought the office of the Speaker and the National Assembly into disrepute and public ridicule. It further accused the Speaker of routinely showing bias against the opposition and its members by inter alia refusing to allow debates on matters of an urgent, definite, and public nature. Well, the APN and the AFC controls 31 of the 65 seats in Guyana's National Assembly and will need a majority vote to move the motion. Well, this means that the opposition would need at least one of the 33 members of the ruling People's Progressive Party, or Civic, and the sole seat of the Liberty and Justice Party to vote in favor of the motion if it is to be successful with their motion. In addition, the APNU and AFC has also filed a separate motion calling for 22 government parliamentarians, including Guyana's Prime Minister Mark Phillips, to be sent to the Privileges Committee for disciplinary action to be taken against them. Well, this, according to the motion, is because their conduct and behavior was unparliamentary and brought the Parliament and the National Assembly into disrepute and invited public odium into the affairs of the Assembly. Ron, here we see in Guyana, they're somewhat taking a huge step to file that motion against the government. The ruling Speaker, ultimately what I would have seen after listening into the first set of the debates for the House of Assembly in Guyana today, the government did file a motion against the opposition to ultimately have them inside the Privileges Committee as well, based off the incident that happened on the 29th. And for those viewers who did not know what happened, as I said before, just basically touched on it, where there was a motion to be, legislation to be passed in the House on the 29th. And the opposition basically was against the motion, and things got a bit physical. Just to put it in layman's term, you can obviously go on YouTube and you'll see what ultimately happened. So based off the reports from Guyana's news articles, what they were ultimately saying is that the opposition was preempting the motion that would have been brought against them, and ultimately filed a motion against the Speaker to have him somewhat voted out, with the no confidence motion following that incident. It hasn't been heard as yet, but ultimately it should be heard between today and tomorrow in Guyana's parliament.
Kamal, we all know and I think understand the importance of the office of the House of the Speaker of the House of Assembly, particularly when it comes to impartiality and not taking particular sides. That is the office for which law and order should abide. And we do wish the residents of Guyana the very best, their leaders, their very best at this very difficult time. Viewers, we have so much more content, but of course you have to go on our website for that, or our social media handles like Facebook, Twitter, and of course Instagram. We are honored to be back another week, bringing you the latest in daily happenings, both locally, regionally, and internationally. We're To It for News, your source for honest and impartial news. I'm Ron Grant.
And viewers, I'm Kamal Hayes, and stay tuned for a week of activity, a week of news, and we have so much to bring this week.
Indeed. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.